Well, hi there, and welcome to a quick video on how to use this virtual lab on temperature and the solubility of salts. So first, let's see, what are we looking at? We're looking at basically an imaginary lab that you can kind of do a bunch of stuff with. You've got a workbench. A workbench is kind of like where you would do your experiments, like your lab table, right? And then we got a stock room over here, and that's filled with all kinds of materials. Most of the stuff that we probably wouldn't let you go get if you were in school. And you've got things like a flask full of water right here, and then you've got all these brown bottles. These are salts, right? Various salts in their solid form. And what you can do is you can add things to the workbench just by clicking on the plus right there. So you add it, and you see all this information. So this might be a little too much information. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to click on the View menu, and we're going to uncheck anything that's not this solid species viewer. It sounds weird, but solid species viewer just tells us the mass of a solid or whatever we click on. So now we're going to get rid of the thermometer, get rid of the pH maybe. That one doesn't seem to want to go away, but whatever. We're really only interested in grams. We're interested in mass. And so we are also making solutions. So let's go back here and give ourselves a flask full of water. We've got 100 milliliters of distilled water. Okay. So our objective is to figure out how much of this, or whatever salt you picked, can be dissolved in this at a different temperature. So one thing we want to make sure we do is know how to change the temperature. So you've got your water right here. Easy way to change the temperature, right click on it, go to thermal properties. And we want to make sure that we are always checking this box, insulated from surroundings. If we don't insulate it from surroundings, it's going to give off or take in some heat from the environment, and that's going to change how much dissolves in there. So we're just going to insulate it, keep the temperature steady, and then we can enter a new temperature, let's say 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, now we have our water at 50 degrees Celsius, and we've got this here. So I'm going to click on this again, and we're going to see, okay, there's 176.508 grams of this salt in the bottle. We want to write that down. Why? Because we need to know how much of this stuff can dissolve in the water, so we're going to have to figure out how much we end up putting in there. So let's write down our initial mass as 176.508 grams. See, I'm writing it down, just like you should. And then what we can do is we can pour it into the water. Check this out. You just have to click and drag it so that it's on top of the water, and it turns into sort of pour or maybe scoop form, right? Scoop form. And over here you got this little menu, and oh, let me get myself out of the way. Little menu, you want to click on realistic, and realistic is if you're just kind of adding some, not measuring it to some exact standard, but just adding some until stuff happens. So, and then you just click on the hold to pour, hold it down a little bit, and it'll add some. Okay. So we added, says 16.9 grams, and every time you click hold to pour, it's going to give you just the amount you added that time. And so what we can see is with the flask selected, we've got something solid in here, right? If something solid appears right here after you're clicking on this flask, that means that you have reached the saturation point, right? You have put in more of the solid than can possibly dissolve. So now we want to calculate how much did dissolve. Let's go back to our bottle and see how much is left. Okay, so I'm going to write this down as final mass, right? So we had the initial mass in the bottle, we took some out. Now we have the final mass. So the final mass is 159.607 grams, right? So I've got them, and then I just want to subtract those two numbers. And that's going to be, let's see, 15 minus 6 is 9, carry the 1, minus 9, and 15 minus 9 is 6. 16.901 grams. 16.901 grams is the mass that we removed from the bottle. Now, we do have one more step, which is, remember, there's some solid left in here. And so this is especially if you put too much in, you'll just have a bunch of solids sitting on the bottom. And you want to make sure you take that out because that's not actually part of the solubility. So we're just going to subtract a 0.564. If you put in way too much, you can just subtract whatever this is too. So I'm going to subtract the minus 0.564. And that's a lot of math to do right now, so I'm going to go with, I have 16.3 something grams remaining, right? So you should do a calculator, get this accurate. But 16.3 grams is what was dissolved into the water at 50 degrees Celsius. You'll see actually that the water temperature has changed because it has taken in some heat in the process of dissolving. You don't have to worry about that. Just 50 Celsius water to start off with was able to get 16.3 or so grams of this stuff dissolved in it. All right, that helps.